Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session, Global Shale Plays, Propelling Natural Gas, the Natural Gas Revolution. My name is Dave Spigelmyer. I'm president of the Marcellus Shale Coalition. It's good to be with you this morning. Beautiful morning in Pittsburgh. And in many ways, we're now in the capital of the North American Shale Revolution. I would also like to welcome our panel this morning. Each of them will share their insights on how natural gas is shaping our region and our nation amidst a competitive global marketplace. Please join me in welcoming, first of all, CEO and Chairman of Mountaineer Keystone, Rob Kozel. Our second panelist is Chief Executive Officer of EQT and our Executive Board Member of the MSC, Mr. David Porges. Professor and Chair of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering for the University of Pittsburgh, Radisav Vidic. And close personal friend of mine, President of Universal Well Services and founding integral part of the MSC, Mr. Roger Willis. You gentlemen can be seated. I look forward to from hearing from each of the gentlemen, but first let me share a few perspectives on where Pennsylvania and our basin sits with respect to the broader global shale play across this industry and across this continent. First of all, the MSC is a trade association working closely with regional shareholders and partners to promote safe natural gas development and liquids development here in the Commonwealth. We engage public officials in a fact-based dialogue, and we work closely with our industry. Simply put, today we're light years ahead of where we were back in 2008. I think back pretty clearly of 2008, as do many of you. Natural gas at the burner tip was close to $20 an MCF. Anybody have an idea of how much natural gas we produced in Pennsylvania in 2008? About 25% of Pennsylvania's demand, or about 182 billion cubic feet of natural gas for a state that consumed about 850. Anybody have an idea where we are today after shale development in the Commonwealth? At the end of last year, Pennsylvania natural gas producers were producing 10% of America's natural gas and triple what we use in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Net exporters, we're now a net exporter in Pennsylvania, and by estimates from EIA just released last week, we're now reached nearly 12 billion cubic feet of natural gas a day coming out of the Appalachian Basin. That's equivalent to about 2 million barrels of oil a day, or more than 6 times our 2009 production. According to a recent article in the Financial Times, October, gas production in the Northeast United States has climbed to more than over 500% since 2005. For perspective, if the Marcellus region were a country, we would be the 8th largest producing region in the world. Staggering progress by any measure. Proximity to population has been key. You know, Pennsylvania sits ideally located within 6 hours of close to 65 million people. You think about Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, and then you get into the Ohio River Basin with Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Detroit, where 45% of the natural gas is consumed in our country. Innovation, as we'll hear from our experts, Pennsylvania has become the hub of innovation. From water reuse to recycling to other cutting-edge production technologies. We use horizontal drilling techniques that have opened a whole new world in the area of natural gas development. It's a world-class resource. The Marcellus and the Utica has proven itself to be productive virtually beyond anyone's expectations. Some of the wells we're seeing in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania are producing record amounts of natural gas flow, and natural gas liquids development here in western Pennsylvania and in eastern Ohio and West Virginia in both the Marcellus and the Utica makes the play very lucrative, as well as likely the keystone to a manufacturing renaissance in our region. Even with rig counts down in Pennsylvania, production continues to climb, a testament to the richness of the resource in the basin. This vibrant production provides us with abundant new market opportunities. Natural gas exports will soon become a reality, if not already today. Liquids development will serve as a feedstock for new chemical and plastics manufacturing right here in our basin. We have used natural gas for the power generation sector in record amounts, and I think if you saw the release last week, EPA has reported that carbon emissions have dropped another 10% due to natural gas being used in the electric generation sector. And transportation opportunities are budding as we speak today. Building out our midstream and pipeline infrastructure is absolutely critical to get the gas to market. We're full underway in getting the gathering systems underway. I would share with you we're building the backbone for that infrastructure right now. Rig counts may be down, but pipeline development is not. We're building pipeline all over the Commonwealth to collect gas from these wells and move it to markets not only here in the Commonwealth but across the region. It also makes the region attractive to potential investors. Increasing demand for natural gas, coupled with common sense public policy decisions, will ensure long-term sustainability and production in the basin. And this is an area where our organization at the MSC is clearly laser focused. Now it's time to hear some of the perspectives from our panel. And my first panelist to speak this morning, it's my pleasure to introduce David Porges, Chief Executive Officer for EQT Corporation. EQT, again, is one of our executive board members. And Dave, if you could, I'd like you to share your perspectives with the audience, a little bit about your company and the progress of developing shale resources in the region.
Thanks, Dave. Well, first of all, congratulations to you on becoming the new head of the Marcellus Shale Coalition. We looking forward to a productive relationship as you take on that role. EQT is a natural gas production, transmission, and for another couple of minutes, probably still distribution company that's based in Pittsburgh. I make that joking aside because we're in the process of selling our gas utility to another locally based company, Peoples Natural Gas. So we have gone from being relatively small in the production of natural gas to growing at between 30 and 40% per annum for each of the last, actually this will be the fourth year in a row that we've grown at that kind of rate. So we are multiples of the size that we were only just a few years ago. And the company is about a $13 billion equity cap corporation. We wound up needing enough capital for our infrastructure business that a little over a year ago we decided to take our midstream business, our natural gas transmission business or pipeline and compression business, and start housing that in a master limited partnership, which is now also publicly traded. So as of a year and a half ago, that's been publicly traded. That's EQT Midstream Partners, or EQM, and that's a little over a $2.5 billion equity cap company too, which is more than double the size of EQT at the time I joined the company back in 1998. So there's been a lot of growth here. And I know a lot of what we wanted to talk about at this event was what the limits are to growth or to developing shale gas in various parts of the country or more broadly, various parts of the world. And what we have found is that a couple of the issues that are the most important are being able to develop the natural gas infrastructure as well as the broader infrastructure, such as the roads, et cetera, that allow you to get the equipment to well sites, the workforce that allows you to construct the well pads and the compressors and the pipelines, et cetera. And also, because of the use of hydraulic fracturing in most of our operation, the ability to access water and then handle that water once you're done dealing with it in the hydraulic fracturing process. So from our perspective, the issues that other parts of the world are going to have to deal with when it comes to natural gas are going to be, do they have that level of infrastructure? Southwestern Pennsylvania, northern West Virginia, that part of the Marcellus play has a history, because of its industrial base, of having a fair amount of natural gas pipelines and being used to having that type of infrastructure. And we happen to be blessed with a fair amount of water resources as well. When we look at other parts of the world, our impression is that that's going to be a bit of a challenge, that whether it's in China or some parts of Europe or in the Middle East, they rarely have that combination of existing infrastructure or comfort with having that infrastructure as well as access to water. So I think a lot of what you have to be able to develop if you're going to develop the shale gas is those fundamentals. And I think that's where perhaps American companies can help. American companies, Canadian companies can help other folks in other parts of the world with that. But I still think that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And as a result, I think the United States is going to continue to be a leader in the production of natural gas as we have become over the last several years.
Appreciate your perspective there, Dave. Thank you very much. Let's jump over to Rob Kozel, who's Chairman and CEO of Mountaineer Keystone. Rob's a Pittsburgh native. Has been in this industry a long time. Rob, if you could share with us a few of your perspectives on hydraulic fracturing, the safe processes that we use for the use of that technology, and some of the challenges that we face ahead.
I believe I've been invited here in addition to that to give a perspective of the small independent, the startups. My family, I have been born and raised here in Pittsburgh. My family was in the oil and gas business. My brothers and I started an E&P company, started a land pipeline and facilities company, started a drilling company, started a foreign operating company, Gulf Keystone, which my brother Todd runs. We took public on the London AIM Exchange in 2004. 2 years ago, I started in conjunction with First Reserve, a private equity firm, a Marcellus and Utica startup here in this basin. What we're seeing is a ton of, or tens of billions of dollars worth of investment, private equity investment in entrepreneurial startup businesses, which I think helped early on in the development of this play. You have existing infrastructure, existing businesses that were in place in this basin, where there were operators such as myself that were able to take early stage steps to acquire land, acquire position, test the formation where they had a position, and either sell that position to a major at a later point in time for further development, or to take that company public in an IPO. So I'd like to focus my talk today, or my position today, on those entrepreneurial opportunities, not only within the industry, but the peripheral support industries and the community as a whole. Since my roots are here in Western Pennsylvania, and I think the economic development that's occurred has been tremendous for the region.
Very good. Thanks so much, Rob. Let's jump over to our next panelist, Roger Willis, President of Universal Well Service. Roger and I had a chance to walk many of the same tracks together early in the development of the Marcellus Shale Coalition. So first of all, Roger, thanks for your help on moving us off the dime. I think some of the early work done at the MSC has helped assure the public that we're very focused on rigor in our rules, safe operations, and continued engagement with the public. If I can, let's allow you then to kind of jump in, and since you were involved in some of the well services on the first wells being drilled and produced in Pennsylvania in our region, why don't you share with us some of your perspectives on safe shale development and the work being done by Universal Well Services?
Okay, Dave, great. Universal's an interesting company because where we're based out of, at least our headquarters, is a small town about an hour and a half to the north of here, Meadville, which, to rewind the tape a long ways back, you've probably heard of the Drake Well, and we're about a half an hour away from the Drake Well, which was 1859. Predating that, though, was the development of the first commercial gas well, which was in 1820 in Fredonia, New York, which is north of us, north of Meadville. It's interesting, as Rob mentioned, a little company. We were about 150 people, and a good friend of mine came back from a trip out west. They had a well down in southwestern Pennsylvania. They were going to plug it, and it happened that he'd seen, thought there might be some promise in the shale, in the Marcellus Shale. Now, we've drilled through the Marcellus here. For those of us that have been up here, we've drilled untold number of wells through the Marcellus and never really, we knew there was gas in it, but we didn't exactly know how to get it out of there. Well, this fellow, Bill Zagorski, with a few of us, sat down and had a beer one night and said, boy, let's see what we can do with this. So, little Universal, we pretty much shut our company down, and on October 23rd, 2004, we fractured the first Marcellus vertical well. And after looking at the results of that, and the horizontal well that they drilled following that, I realized that we were sort of, I don't know how to put this correctly, but we were sort of a company that had a buggy whip and someone had invented a gasoline engine in a car. So we took our company and transformed that into making sure that we were a world-class provider of fracturing and cementing services. And now we have operations throughout Pennsylvania with over 1,000 employees. And really, having been here for such a long time already, as Dave mentions, it fell on a lot of us that were up here originally to try and assure people in the region that we lived here, that we weren't invaders from someplace else that were coming to pillage the land and destroy it, but that actually we lived here. And that's really been quite a challenge. And so we think that the operations that we have in Pennsylvania and the surrounding areas developing the Utica and the Marcellus and soon to be other Devonian shales above that are beyond world class. I mean, I think we're defining the direction that the industry is going as a whole, and it's been really exciting to see this happen again from a start in 1820, and it's interesting that first well, the Hart well up in Fredonia, New York, produced from the shale. So we've sort of gone full circle around the world from 1820 in western New York all the way back here again and have a world-class basin. And I think there are many of us up here that are committed to make sure that we don't leave a legacy of a problem up here. And so I think there's a commitment through the people in this industry. You might hear that there are people coming from other areas, but all of our employees are from Pennsylvania or West Virginia, and we're proud of that. So Dave, I think I'll be able to address later on some of the amazing technologies that we use, but probably more important, the safety implications of what we're doing these days in developing.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, it's probably one of the most incredible things that have been in my career, and frankly since 2008 when we really kicked off the MSC, is to watch the growth in companies and the growth of the service industry that has supported our business. I think in early 2008 we were projecting about 20,000 new jobs in the Commonwealth. Department of Labor recently come out with information in Pennsylvania that we have almost 240,000 new jobs, both direct and indirect jobs in the Commonwealth supporting our industry. Those of you that drive Interstate 80 or Interstate 79 regularly, you can see the impact pretty quickly by looking at placarded vehicles. But it's not only the jobs, it's the economic benefits that grow from this as well. $1.8 billion of new taxes generated in the Commonwealth, $406 million of local impact fees that are being spread broadly throughout the Commonwealth. Those are real life investments being made in the Commonwealth that are transformational changes here in our communities.
Dave, just one comment for everyone. I think it is important also to realize that the places that we're developing this have been some pretty hard economic areas. I mean, we have operations in Williamsport, in Bradford, Pennsylvania, in Connellsville, and Punxsutawney, and these are areas which really needed the jobs, needed the good jobs in the development. So.
Yeah, the only economic benefit or growing thing in Punxsutawney was the groundhog. So
Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah, we've been able to help stimulate the economy there. So let's jump over to Professor Vidic, Chair of University of Pittsburgh's Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. And Radisav, I'd ask you to speak to the importance of collaboration with our industry and how it's touched your university as other educational institutions across the Commonwealth. And just share your comments if you would.
Well, unlike my colleagues, we didn't know much about shale gas development since 18-something years or early 1900s. We learned about it in about 2007, 2008. Heard about the shale gas development, and then figured out we have to, learn more about it, get involved a little bit. And so since then, the University of Pittsburgh is the leading educational institution in the country in other areas has devoted a lot of resources to develop the expertise and contribute to the development of this important economic engine for the region. So we first started off by looking at some of the research interests. This is what piques the interest of most faculties, like, okay, the shale gas, what can I do? What is going on there? But then quickly realized it's going to be a major need for developing the workforce that's going to support the growth of this industry. So there is a whole slew of new courses and programs that have been developed at the University of Pittsburgh, both in engineering, geology, public policy, economics, that are focused and oriented to educate students to be able to work in this industry and contribute to the economic development. We also have educational programs. We've actually, part of the center, we created a Center for Energy, which is a university-based initiative that is major part of that. Center for Energy is really working with shale gas development and addressing not only the technical issues, which is what a lot of people are interested in, but also addressing the environmental and health and safety issues, which I think is probably as important, from the public's perspective. And I think university has a unique role to play in that area as a, if you will, an honest broker, because we don't have a vested interest, you know, in gas development, you know, per se, but we have an interest in living in this region and making sure that it's done, you know, safely and to the benefit of the whole region and with the full environmental protection. So I think that is the part where university has a major role to play in. And then we also manage to partner with the National Energy Technology Lab that's located in south of Pittsburgh, and take advantage of some of the expertise and facilities that exist there in order to be able to promote the responsible development and probably thinking about some, you know, unlike my colleagues here, we don't have to worry about, you know, shareholder value, quarter reports and all of that, and so we can afford to think about, you know, some issues that are going to come maybe 5 or 10 years down the road and see where this whole industry is going and start working on these issues now so that when they come to the forefront, we'll be ready to address them and help continue the industry development.
Thank you, Professor. I would share with you that it's a challenge of ours to make sure every Pennsylvania realizes they've got skin in the game with shale gas development. I think you don't have to look far from your own kitchen when you see your natural gas bill half or less than half of what it was in 2008. I think back in 2009, the Pennsylvania PUC was telling each of us to, you know, better curb your electric usage because rate caps were coming off, and that was at the time that shale gas was really coming in vibrant from early development of shale. It softened natural gas price pretty quickly. Natural gas being the last dispatch fuel for electric generation set the market price for power, and power prices stayed stable or dropped. And we've seen billions of dollars of savings, not only here in Pennsylvania, but across PJM and ECAR for, those are the power generation grids for electric power supply to not only residents, but also industrial, commercial, and business users of that fuel. So, yeah, we believe everyone has skin in the game, and, you know, we talked about some of the tax benefits and economic benefits, but clearly the direct benefit to John Q. Public is there as well. Just have to drill down a little bit as well. Back in 2008, you know, we were 57% dependent on foreign sources of oil. I think in first time in my lifetime. Last year, we dropped well below 50% dependent on foreign sources of oil, moving our energy security needle significantly. I think we're now at about 42% dependent on foreign sources of oil. That's a big deal for this country, and shale gas development has had a major stake or major play in that.
So, you know, Dave, we were probably a little slow as an industry to make those benefits clear to the community. We, as an industry, I think we assumed that everyone knew about the benefits, the reduced prices for heating, the reduced prices for electricity generation, the tax revenue benefits that the community at large was receiving as well, and actually some advice for other parts of the world that are getting into shale gas. It's to recognize that, because the inconveniences that the average person in a community that is new to shale gas development, the inconveniences they will see is they will see a lot more vehicle traffic. They will see the roads get used up before they get repaired. They will get more road damage to start with. There's going to be more noise involved because it is economic activity. And I think to make sure that that one is also communicating those benefits, both economic and other benefits, would be an important thing to do. So if we ever had it all to do over again, I think we'd probably be a little bit more forward thinking as an industry in getting those benefits out there.
Yes,
well,
sir.
don't be so hard on yourself. If you look at, you know, where the industry came from was Texas, and they've been living off of the oil and gas for decades, and so it was easy there to just say we're going to develop another resource. Pennsylvania had a somewhat unpleasant experience with another energy industry, you know, extractive industry in the region.
I thought you were talking about wind. No.
And so it was like, okay, here's another extractive industry coming into town, and so there was a little bit of a pushback, you know, try and understand that. And I think one of the key issues when we talk about development of these gas, I think, is getting the public involved early on and explaining what exactly is going to happen, how exactly it's going to look like when everything's said and done, and what are the benefits and everything, the whole process. And once people, anything that's sort of foreign to people and they don't understand it, they're by and large against it, you know, because it's I don't know.
Right.
Well, what's different? Oil and gas industry had existed here since the mid 1800s, and it had never gone away, but it had worked in rural areas. What changed is that the development here occurred in urban areas, places that were closer to large economic centers like Pittsburgh. So it was more visible. And so it wasn't that we didn't have a bad name, we didn't have a good name, but I agree that educating people, having a voice, an industry voice, is very important. I think that the attitude here in southwestern Pennsylvania has changed dramatically over the past 5 years as people have become more educated.
I think another piece of this is that even at a level below what we're talking about right now is I think the average person, not just in Pennsylvania or the United States or the world, really doesn't understand where the energy that they use comes from. And so we've been trying to spend an awful lot of time when you look at you drive your car every day or you flip a light switch on. So many people just figure the energy, where does that come from? It comes out of a plug. And they don't really realize that we have benefits from what carpeting or clothing, you name it, that are benefits of the energy that we explore for. And I think we need to do a much better job of explaining that to people so they realize the benefit rather than just look, as Dave mentioned, the impacts that they see. Because I think we are all in this together because we do all use it.
Yeah, I mean, clearly being in this basin and in the Pittsburgh region, I mean, this was the manufacturing hub of America. You think about what took place in this basin, and frankly, it was built on the availability of natural resources. And I think the opportunities are many ahead of us for manufacturing renaissance if we're able to get certain key elements built here in the region, primarily in a cracking technology to take product and utilize that product right here at home. I mean, that's probably the next big step for government work that we've got at MSC to make sure we're educating our public officials on the real benefits of shale gas production likely come with our ability to use that natural gas here at home. Guys, let's shift gears for just a second, if I may. I mean, we went in early shale development in 2009. I think our rig counts ramped up pretty quickly. We are exploration and production businesses by trade. When prices dropped pretty quickly, we had areas that were clearly exploratory, saw a pretty quick decrease in investment. Some areas have proven out to be very lucrative, and development continues there. What's the next phase? What's the next step in your eyes of where you see shale gas development going here in the Commonwealth?
Dependent on midstream and takeaway, international takeaway through LNG. I think that there was a stall not only because of a price dip for the commodity, but there was a stall because the infrastructure in place became overwhelmed. For the first time in the history of this region, gas is trading at a negative index to NYMEX, meaning below Henry Hub price. That's unique to this region because we have an overproduction, not because there's not demand nationally for the product, but because we need to build midstream to get the product to the market, to the takeaway. So the first phase, as I saw it, was influx of money to buy a position, develop that position, prove up the play. The play actually is good or better than many anticipated. And so now there's money flowing in to build additional pipelines and take away, for instance, the LNG is a must, I think, or pipelines that they may reverse and take our gas like the Rockies line that take gas back to Chicago from this region, which was originally constructed to bring gas from the Rockies to the region,
and to build more markets.
Yes.
So that we don't have to take as much of it away. I think that's actually something that we could afford to, some lessons we could afford to learn from some of our friends in the Middle East who have done a better job than we have of building up some of the industries around their oil and gas industries, building up the petrochemical industry. You alluded, Dave, to the ethane crackers and having even more broadly to have petrochemical complexes, but also to use natural gas as a vehicle fuel. I mean, that whether it's directly into vehicles, as can happen, of course, with buses and cars, trucks, et cetera, or whether it's we're using gas to liquids technology, which of course they use a lot in in South Africa and Qatar, they're using a lot of gas to liquids. Or as some have been talking about more, to use some of the technology to create methanol as a higher octane, clean liquid fuel again. So generally speaking, more markets, or the industry, just more industry beyond just petrochemicals. And I think we're a little behind in that area as well.
Professor, what can we do a little differently in terms of help educate students? I mean, clearly, nearly every consumer product we touch today, steel, glass, plastics, chemicals, fertilizers, powder metals, pharmaceuticals, as David mentioned, certainly transportation's next sector for us, liquefied natural gas export, all important for us in the future. What's your thought on how we can do a better job with students and broaden their education on natural gas availability and benefits?
I think students actually have a pretty keen ability to figure out what is good for them and where they want to go and what they want to do. And so the students actually drive the interest. So now this generation is very much interested in sustainable development of whatever we do as humans on the planet. And so I think this kind of it behooves us to address these issues in our classes and explain to students how this can be done to the benefit of everybody. When it comes to research and projects, there are a lot of people at Pitt that are very much interested in this conversion of methane to methanol, which is like a holy grail of catalysis. It hasn't been done yet very well, but we have some efforts underway that are seeded by the Center for Energy, for example, because it takes a while to develop some preliminary results so we can go after it to the next phase. So there is a lot of exciting activities, and then also the issues of policy and economic impact is something that the Grad School of Public International Affairs is very keen to get involved in. They're organizing programs. Plus we have a lot of collaborations with international programs, or the programs across the world that are coming to Pittsburgh to learn from us how we've done it. And so every month we have visit from someplace, from another country that wants to do this, and they come here to see how we've done it. And there is a keen interest, that they want to develop their shale resources as well, but there's a lot of, trepidation because they're afraid of what's going to be involved, how they're going to be able to do it, and so forth. So they want to learn as much as they possibly can. I think the university has a major role and responsibility, in my opinion, to play in that area, to tie into different parts of the system that are all working towards a common goal, and make sure it's done properly, comprehensively, with life cycle assessment kind of mode of operation and thinking, that it's not just get the gas out now, but it's like from the beginning until the end, what's the cradle grave impacts.
Surprisingly to some, our industry's made it very clear we need to have a robust package of regulations in this Commonwealth and across the country to continue to produce natural gas for the long term. So that's certainly a charge to make sure we have common sense rules in place, but also have rigor to our rules. I want to be mindful of our time constraints today, and I know there's a number of you out there. I have probably 4 or 5 additional questions I've identified here, but I want to give this audience a chance to ask the panelists a few questions if you have concerns or comments that you'd like to make. I'll open the floor. Questions from anyone? Yes, sir.
My name is Pete O'Neill. I'm Director of International.
Hang on one second. We'll hand you a mic.
It'll come.
Jeff, I don't think we got power to that one. Yeah, we go. We're good.
Working? My name is Pete O'Neill. I'm Director of International Trade for the state of Pennsylvania out of Harrisburg. So you do have a government official here listening.
Oh boy. The government's always listening.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Yeah. I think I know the answer to the question already, but I'll ask it anyway. It seems to me we need an international strategy here. I hear a lot of potential here in terms of, say, technologies perhaps being developed and refined here now as a result of what's been going on the last 5 years. That we, as an export promotion dude, I'm interested in helping Pennsylvania businesses sell their products and services abroad. We also have the other side of their shop is foreign investment attraction, trying to bring in foreign investors. And I'm wondering, and with the education angle to it, it seems to me we really need to do what we do in our office in other industries, is a cluster approach to this. And I'm wondering what you guys think about trying to organize this a little bit more from an opportunity to exploit this in terms of helping our companies sell technologies and their experience abroad, getting the universities more involved, internationally engaged too, because they're kind of a hub in terms of safety and technology, and then the foreign investment attraction where we could package these opportunities to foreign investors to come and help invest in midstream and downstream industries. So it seems to me it's probably a time to think about something like that, but if you've got any comments on how that might unfold, I'd appreciate your comments.
Yeah,
Thanks.
any of the panelists want to jump in, you're more than welcome. I would be happy to, entertain that discussion. Certainly, our coalition has probably amassed over 90% of the production coming out of Pennsylvania from unconventional developers are members of the MSC. We have a very vibrant committee structure that looks at those very type of issues. Would love to engage the Commonwealth. Clearly, we are working diligently to try and pick up our game on the legislative and regulatory front. Would love to have an opportunity to chat with you more about that, to engage our members, to encourage investment into the Commonwealth. I mean, I use the term a lot. A rising tide lifts all boats. We talked a little bit about trying to make sure that the general public abroad can learn about the benefits of the shale play and what it means, not only here in Pennsylvania, but across this country and internationally. But clearly, gaining investment into our basin would be critical. Would love to have that dialogue with you.
I'd have to say that that's a great idea. I think it's difficult to perceive the technology, the growth in technologies that has occurred in this basin. From the first well in 2004 into what we're doing right now, it's an evolving business. So we are a real cauldron here of new ideas, and it would be a great idea to have a way to transfer that around the country. I think people have been so busy that they haven't had a chance to think about that, but that's a great idea.
It is early stage. We're developing technologies, know-how, changing the way that the way that we drill, complete, produce wells, and so we're focused. We've been focused on our business here, and being so early stage, I don't know that we've thought about that, but it may be time.
I mean, even in Harrisburg, the rule-making process is still very foundational. So, we're clearly engaged, but would love to have a greater conversation about
University has already made, a move in that direction, because it's very easy to collaborate with another university. I don't have to invest millions of dollars and move equipment or anything like that. We just exchange ideas. So I just came back from the North Africa Oil and Gas Summit in Tunisia, and they're very keen to learn from our experience. The only caveat is that what works here is not necessarily going to work at other parts of the world. So you have to be cognizant that there are differences not only in regulatory framework and economic issues, got political issues, but also in technical issues. So it's not necessarily directly translatable, and so you have to develop solutions that would be applicable and that would work in these regions. And so that is the only thing that we have to perhaps look at, how it's going to be different when you try to export the industrial activity from Pennsylvania elsewhere.
So appreciate your question. Other questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marie Svoboda, and my question is the government making things difficult with regulations?
I thought that was their job, to make things difficult with regulations. Yeah, our concern with regulations isn't the existence of the regulation. It's that we have always, as an industry, and I bet other industries feel the same way, would like regulations to routinely be science-based and consistently enforced and clear, right? So ones that are easy to understand. And I think, unfortunately, with a variety of regulatory bodies involved, that fails to be true. Even when one organization, let's say if the state of Pennsylvania DEP might have rational rules, but they do get impacted by their rulemaking, and then we have to deal with other rules that are at the federal level. And of course, rules between the states aren't always the same either, but even different federal agencies have different rules. So it winds up, that's the complexity. So even when you get one regulatory body that is honoring that, that the goals of being science-based and clear and consistent enforcement, you're still dealing with other regulatory agencies who have their own perspectives.
I think it's also a real difficult perception issue. For example, you look at Pennsylvania, we put well over 1 million tons of rock salt on the road so we can drive safely. But as a producing company, if you were to have a very, very, very small drip or any kind of a spill or anything of a brine that came out of a well, you'd be looking at a very stiff fine. Right. And so it's a perception issue that people perceive one thing as a risk and another thing as a benefit. And we need to really work on that. I think that's one of the components that the Marcellus Shale Coalition and all the operating companies are focusing on right now, is to try and put the perception issue into something that the average person can understand, that they use chemicals and products all the time in their daily lives, and they see benefit from the things that are under their sink, but they look at what we have and see a danger in that, and that's a problem that we might have fostered here by not paying attention to that.
I'll tread out on some thin ice here with you on an issue that's now being challenged at the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania under Act 13. The industry pressed for uniformity in our rules in Pennsylvania, meaning that environmental rules should not be administered by 2,650 municipalities in Pennsylvania, but rather be administered by our Department of Environmental Protection. If you think about an industry, as Dave Porges had mentioned, we're looking for certainty in our rules and predictability in our rules before we can invest capital. If you have 2,650 sets of different rules and different application of those rules, it makes it very, very difficult to invest capital. So that's why the industry has asked for uniformity across Pennsylvania and allowing our environmental agencies to administer environmental rules. Our industry will work every day with the municipalities in which we do business, townships, boroughs, towns, villages, cities. But the reality of having 2,650 sets of separate rules across the Commonwealth would serve a pretty serious blanket on capital investment here in Pennsylvania.
And being born and raised here, the frustration of being an operator in this basin for the past 25 years, the frustration has been just that, what Dave has alluded to. The interpretation of the rules being different by numerous different agencies or within the same agency. Anecdotally, when they first started to enforce stormwater management rules and regulations in the state, I called a meeting with 3 agencies that were all trying to regulate our stormwater management E&S controls and our plan and our site preparation with the gentleman from the DEP in Harrisburg who wrote the rules. They asked me to leave the room because all 3 of them had a half an hour argument about how to interpret the rules when they were sitting there with the gentleman who wrote them. And so that's what's frustrating. We are happy as an industry to work within the rules if they're clearly defined and enforced.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're up against our time element, so I'm going to call this session to a close, but I'd first ask for your applause for our panelists this morning. Thank you very much.
Is that all right?
That's it.